Okay, this will be an interesting one. I found this by the side of the road. Let's see if we can make it look any good. Wondering we're going to make it photo paper. Sorry about the shaking, folks. I'm trying to steady it. Can't. So wondering how big we're going to make it. 360 by 360. Okay. Okay, let's see what we have. We have here a photograph of a card that says on your retirement. So this is a retirement card, and that's obviously him sitting there. So yeah, it's a picture, retirement, someone retired. Yeah, retirement sounds like a horrible thing to me, like not being at the job that you're proud of and not having as much money to live off, not having a daily routine, having to sit in front of the boring television for your fucking entertainment, and you're not doing anything very useful. It's a very nasty feeling to be, often for people to be retired, and people are often forced into early retirement because of ageism, the discrimination against old people. I mean, people should be allowed to work as long as they like. I mean, it gives people a sense of well-being, being in the workforce instead of being forced to retire. Both my parents were sent into early retirement, and they were both very unhappy with it. They weren't happy with it. That looks interesting. Maybe going to make it into a movement piece, but basically early retirement isn't for everyone, and it's like these rich people, these bosses, just want to make way for fresh blood, but it's silly, that people can't stay in the job as long as they are still able to work. But I know that the workforce is very competitive. There's not many work jobs around for everyone, so they probably think it's fair enough to send people into early retirement, even though it's really not good for them. So this looks interesting how I've done it like that. Wondering if we're going to make this into something better. But basically, yeah, it's quite cruel sending people off to an early retirement when they just want to work. My mum didn't have a very good time in the workplace. Her workplace was full of workplaces. She was on temping. She was trying to eke out a living through temping. And my dad was told by his boss that he was too overqualified to keep his job. So both of my parents were forced into early retirement. I don't know why my mum was retired, because she was working primarily temporary jobs. Maybe the temping agency didn't feel there was a need for her anymore, that maybe she was too old. But still, it was pretty cruel. Both my parents being dudded by the system, the employment from these rich people who run these companies. My dad worked for a big company. I won't name it, folks, but he worked for a big telco, and he spent most of the days of his life working in that industry. But basically now he went and educated himself, and he worked really hard. Even though my dad is an asshole, folks, want to put that in perspective, he still didn't deserve to be forced into an early retirement, especially because he was considered too overqualified by his employer, which is really a cop-out for hiring cheap and nasty, useless labour. My mum is with this telco, and apparently one technician she saw was so badly trained he couldn't even lift the ladder himself. He couldn't use his ladder, believe it or not. And that's the kind of monkeys and hired incompetence that this company had obviously replaced my father with, perhaps. But this looks really quite interesting. I think now we can call it quits.